Well, it was so fun, intense, and insightful to virtually hang out with you across these 5 episodes. Audience gets to witness some truly remarkable encounters, and I was just so mesmerized by seeing that planet-sized swarm of fish that is surrounded by the 4 different predators, including the dolphins and the lion versus the buffalo, and all the surface blows from the fin whales. As beautiful as it is to witness that from the comfort of my couch, and as well as you articulate the feeling from the experience and the knowledge you share, what is something perhaps that I will never understand unless I've been in your shoes and been where you've been? Is there just something about the patience and being in the elements that heightens the emotions felt and perhaps increases the spiritual connection that you have to the earth and the animals that you cover here?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I would say that normally, so I've been filming professionally for 6 or 7 years now. And normally I would maybe 2 or 3 times a year, if that, get a moment where all of the factors, the weather, the animal behavior, the logistics, everything comes together and it is just wow.
Hmm.
And I feel very fortunate that on Epic Adventures I had that every single shoot. And I think that's just because of the level of ambition that we went at this project with. We really went for the biggest and the best animal encounters there are.
Yeah.
And in terms of something that is very difficult to put across on a television screen, I mean, a perfect example of that is in the Antarctic episode, you talked about the surface blows of the fin whales.
Yeah.
There's that shot where it's the first time we see the gathering right at the end of the film, that we see the gathering on that
Yeah.
flat, calm day. And there's just that line of blows on the horizon. And it just looked like cannons going off in an old
Yeah.
sea battle. Trying to put that into words, the feeling that you get is just impossible. It is the biggest adrenaline hit, just sort of out of body experience. And what's interesting about those moments is that they're very exciting, and that's very easy to deliver to a camera.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the more excited you are, the more incredible the wildlife encounter is, the more there's this little feeling of dread, because you're thinking, how on earth do I do this justice? What a ridiculous responsibility I now have in the next hour or however long to capture this. And because you owe it to the animals and to the place and all of the people that have worked so hard to get you in that position. So there's a huge amount of responsibility at that point. And I remember as we sailed towards that gathering of whales to get close enough to launch the drone, I was sat there looking at the drone going, which lens do I put on?
Hmm.
Stuff that normally would be so second nature to me, and now suddenly I felt almost paralyzed by it. And I think that's something I hope I'll never lose, because it really heightens your senses and means that you're really on it and concentrating when you get into the thick of it. And then the moment you get in the water and the first 80-ton whale swims past, that's when you're like, okay, I'm in the zone now, I can do this.
Yeah.
You definitely get into like a flow state, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, you sell it really well. Like I really want to one day go to the forest and see all those millions of bats and feel that feeling that you were describing in your stomach. I hope that happens one day. But there are 2 different moments in the series where you say it was like they were looking into my soul. And you say it when you have an unexpected encounter with a pilot whale and then another with a lion. And I was wondering if you could compare and contrast those 2 feelings. Were they similar, or because these 2 different species behave differently and live in different environments, that they just evoke a different feeling?
Yeah, two very different things. So in the case of the lion, the intensity of the stare is like nothing I think I've experienced before, just because it was so close. And yeah, you suddenly feel like prey. And I think as a human, we're not naturally prey to anything very often.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time you were hunted. I haven't been hunted recently. And so it triggers everything, sort of caveman instincts. All your fight and flight responses are going, all the hairs on the back of your neck go up. So that was very much like a adrenaline filled looking into your soul. In the case of the pilot whale encounter, that was a much more mellow sort of out of body experience, in that when you're filming animals on land, you can often use a long zoom lens. You can be hidden. They don't generally know that you're there. Whereas when you're in the water, you're limited by the underwater visibility.
Right.
The best underwater visibility is what, 30 meters, 90 feet. And so generally the animals need to know that you're there. And so they have to be accepting of your presence. And so going alongside those pilot whales on that underwater scooter, James Bond style, was cool enough as it was. But for then that whale to come right alongside, really have a look, and then all the whales to start falling asleep. When an animal is falling asleep in front of you, that's when it is really, really relaxed and comfortable with your presence. And that was just the ultimate honor.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I love how much you bring the viewer into the experience by talking to us. Like, I really enjoyed like you just messing around with your crew like you do with the whale and the lion episodes. It better allows us to know the stakes of what you're trying to capture. So what's interesting to me is when you're pushed to that point of capturing something cutting edge and when you're putting yourself at risk. So knowing when to let go of a moment when you're on the brink of discovery. Could you paint that experience for me when you're so completely lost in a moment, but you have to keep the technical aspects in mind, and so you don't get smacked by a 200-pound tuna or hit with a fin or get struck by lightning when you're on a very high point. So how do you keep from feeling overwhelmed by either side of that?
Totally. Well, I think in terms of not getting overwhelmed by the technicalities of the cameras, that all comes from preparation and planning. So all of the people that, I was very lucky to have a lot of my friends film on this project, a lot of my best friends, and they are all at the top of their game. And what all of them have in common is that they have, what's the phrase? How do you become a master in 10,000 hours? They've all spent the time so that using a camera is just so second nature that all of us are entirely focused on reading the animal behavior in the moment. I'm not thinking about, what shutter speed should I use? What resolution am I filming in? All of that stuff is just a given. We're so quick at that because of the amount of time we've spent doing it. It's like breathing. It's like walking. And it's the same with operating our dive gear. We need to be as comfortable diving as we are walking, because you can't be thinking about that stuff. You need to be focused on the animals. It's an interesting question when it comes to how do you not get overwhelmed by the animals. There's a really interesting thing called viewfinder confidence, which is basically when you stick your head in the viewfinder, suddenly everything is way less intimidating and scary.
Right.
So as an example with the leopard seal in the Antarctic episode, that is the closest I will ever come to seeing a dragon in real life. Like, they really do look like dragons when they swim through the water. They're massive heads in the way that they slither, in this serpentine way. And you stick your head in the viewfinder and suddenly you're like, this looks lovely. Yeah, I'll just follow this around. I'll let it leave frame. Yeah, let it enter frame. It's a lovely shot. Look at it with the bubbles. And then you take your head away from the viewfinder and you go, oh, it's really, really big and it's right there. So that's when, you just have to rely on your experience and ability to read animal behavior. And again, it comes back to what's normal. So I've been lucky enough to dive with a lot of seals and sea lions around the world. And I know that when they start biting you or putting your head and your camera and your arms in their mouths, they're not trying to eat you. They're just trying to figure out what you are.
Sure.
That leopard seal had probably almost certainly never seen a human in its life. And so they don't have hands. They can't feel what I am with their hands. They have to use their teeth. And if it actually wanted to hunt me, if it actually wanted to kill me, it would have done what it does to penguins, which is fly out of the depths, ambush, and it would be all over very quickly. The fact that it was presenting itself meant that, it was curious and was interacting with us. And so, yeah, just like you'd read human behavior, you and I both know when someone looks angry or someone looks friendly or sad or happy. It's the same with animals. You've got to read their behavior, and in the same way that they're reading yours. So if you're very calm and relaxed, they reflect that in their actions.
The thing that makes me most excited is that I have no idea what's in store for us.